I'm reading this article here on Congo, and it's really interesting because they say in this piece that the question was asked, many people have wished for decades that someone would run the government more like a business. Is this what they meant, or are Elon Musk and his group of 25-year-old coders doing something different? And what he writes is the fundamental concept is just that you throw them at the problem, they gather as much data as possible about where the money is going or who's doing what. Very simple, straightforward questions, arguably difficult answers, but straightforward questions. And then you use that information to create some sort of ranking, saying this is good, this is bad. Then you try to solve the bad. So the playbook in some sense is extremely simple. The difference here is that they're applying it to areas like the government, where maybe it has never been applied or it's really hard to apply because the downstream implications are extremely complex. It could cut off cancer research or genomics departments are getting axed or AIDS assistance elsewhere in the world. And that's the whole point there. When Republicans, Trump, MAGA goes, yeah, you know what, we're not going to fund PEPFAR. PEPFAR actually played a huge role in slowing down and impacting HIV/AIDS across the entire continent of Africa. It is arguably the greatest legacy of President George W. Bush. And this is something that if there's any moment where you want somebody to say something, this is where you would want former President George W. Bush to come out publicly and like, what the fuck are y'all doing? You have no clue what you're doing. But too many people are remaining silent. And these folks, and as we talked about last week, the head of the UN AIDS agency says that the decision to cut off this funding could add 6.7 million new AIDS cases, deaths in the next 10 years. This is life and death. 71-year-old woman in a refugee camp in Thailand from Myanmar died because when the money was frozen, the USAID money, that paid for the oxygen at the hospital she was going to. So a person sitting here, some 22-year-old coder, knows nothing about the downstream impacts. And what people don't understand, all these people, like all these people who keep yelling, deport people back, stop spending money abroad, don't even realize that a lot of the money that we're spending abroad actually keeps people in their countries. It plays a role in stabilizing other governments. It's just nonsensical how some of these people are thinking.
And I would add to that a very large portion of money that's spent on organizations like USAID, it comes back to the United States. Just like with defense contracts and all of this other types of money, it pays salaries for U.S. individuals. Look what's happening with the farmers whose feed is and grain is rotting in the Houston airport somewhere because they can't ship it overseas right now. That disconnect that Americans have with the role that they play in other parts of the world is one of the reasons why we're here today. We can talk the same thing as relates to Ukraine and the like. And so when you talk about the woman in Thailand, and you could probably multiply that by a few thousand right now, and these coders may not know this, but I'm pretty sure, and it kind of ties into your interview with the doctor, Elon Musk knows this. This is part of his design. Because USAID helped topple apartheid in South Africa and the hatred that he has towards Africans and black people is part of his design to see people die and to see people suffer who come from these spaces. And it's unfortunate that people can't connect the common humanity for that to be a problem, like the woman you mentioned in Thailand. And we're going to see, and USAID doesn't only, and the example you gave is also great because it's sad but great. Because it's a reminder that USAID doesn't only feed or help children in African countries. It helps people in European countries, in Asian countries, but people attach a black face to it. But people don't have that kind of sympathy, Roland. And so I feel like at the end of the day, what needs to be happening right now is people need to be reminded of how connected we are as a society. We all live in this Me TV era where we all got our social media platforms, looking at ourselves all day, sharing our own food on Instagrams and so on and so forth. We get disconnect, not us here, but society has become disconnected from each other. But what Trump is showing us right now is that we are connected in so many ways, and that they should not be turning over the government to a bunch of business guys, to a bunch of guys calling themselves all these crazy names on LinkedIn, 20-something-year-olds. And we had a businessman run the country in 2016, and look what he did. And I'll be very honest, Roland, the amount of depression and sadness I'm seeing right now, it's kind of feeling like we're in the COVID pandemic all over again, right in the beginnings of it. And that's people need, and that was also in part caused by Trump, who got rid of the pandemic response team and lied about what COVID did. And now look what he's doing, getting rid of this agency. I just read they got cuts at the FDA now, and the medical devices and tobacco companies, agencies, more cuts today. So he's doing the same thing all over again. This is what happens when we turn the government over to a businessman, particularly a failed one.